And today I'm doing a video tutorial on the Dios de los Muertos SVG kit, which stands for Day of the Dead. We have 5 pieces that we're going to make step by step, and I'll go over each and every one with you. And they're very fast and easy. These two take a little more time, but not too bad. And these 3 are also very fast. Now the first piece I'm going to show you real quick is the Groom Skull, and it's fun because it's 2 pieces. You have a top hat and you have the skull, and you could easily use this top hat, turn it over and put treats inside and use it for something else. I turned mine into Luminaries using these battery operated tea lights. Of course you wouldn't want to use candles because it is paper. So you could put a really nice treat inside or a special gift. You could use these at a party for table settings. You could put these on the mantle or in the window, would be really fun. You could do these in different kinds of paper for Halloween or other holidays. I can imagine the skulls in Halloween paper and make them really spooky. Now these you can see are all really bright, pretty colors, and I use the Love Tattoo coordinating paper pack, and you can get that one at florettebloom.com. And you can see here you get a lot of flowers in the kit. And I'll go over it. They're real easy to make. This one comes apart as well. And if you wanted to make just the skull, you would just maybe leave the flowers off. Then you have the card, which is essentially 2 pieces. And it's a heart card with wings, real fast. And then lastly here, well not lastly, I've got a banner behind me too, but this is the 1-piece skull box. And you can open it up, put treats inside, a luminary. And I call it the 1-piece skull box because you can make this with 1 piece of paper. And I did this one with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And all the pieces can be made on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper or a 12 by 12. So whatever machine you have or whatever size mat you have, you'll be able to make these. And then behind me, you can see a banner, and that's a papal banner, which is a hand-cut paper banner traditionally. So I thought it would be fun to have these banners that you could make on your machine that you could decorate for a party and have lots of them, and it would be really fun. So let's get started. Here we have our skull with top hat, and you can see I've already cut out all the pieces. I've folded some of the score lines, and what I've also done before I want to get started, if I want to ink any of the edges, this is a good time to do it. One of the things I find is to ink the edges, you can just fold these over. I like to use these Copic markers sometimes because I find it a little easier than using a little ink pad or something like that. And you can just go down the sides. And what this also do is cover any of the score lines. Now you don't need to do this part here because this is the top of your box. Now to do the inside of the nose, all you have to do is really follow around the edge like this. Okay? So I'm also going to show you how to fold these score lines. As you can see, there's a lot of curves. If we look at the original skull here that you saw in the photos, you've got curves that go out and then in and then out again. And so that's how we have to bend our score lines. But it's all really there for you already. You're going to take the first one and you're going to bend it forward. And that's going to be the top of your box. Then you're going to come to the rounded part going out, so you're going to fold these towards you. Okay. Then we're going to go in, and you're going to fold these the opposite way. And if you're having trouble seeing them, it's easier sometimes to flip it over and just give them a little bend. And you can see how it's starting to form a shape. Then the bottom ones, you're going to fold this way. And this one is going to be the bottom of your box. So now you can see you've got a nice, this is what it should look like. Because when it stands up, this is going to be the top of your box. And those are for the sides. Now each piece is also numbered, and that's how we're going to put it together in order. Now I've darkened them in with a pen so you can see it on the camera here. But your machine will cut out the number for you. So with the facial pieces, there are no score lines in the face, just at the bottom section. So what you're going to do here, well, you do have 1 score line at the top for the top of your box. What I like to do is just kind of take your fingers and give it a little bend outward. And then this one, you're just going to bend it inward. But as you form the box, it's all going to come together because it'll just follow the lines of the other score marks. The other thing I like to do before I put it together is put in our panel so that we can make it into a luminary. So you're just going to, you have one piece that does not have this tab cut. I've already glued that one on to piece 4. Okay, and you can just line it up with the bottom and the top, covering the eyes and the nose. So I'm going to move some of these pieces out of our way so I have a little more working space. And I'm going to glue in our luminary panel. And what I like to do is go around the eye with our glue around the nose and around the mouth here. And you only have to go this high. Now this tab piece, you're going to line up with this opening between these two tabs at the mouth. Okay, and that's just going to fit in right here next to the score lines. Just going to line it up and press it down. Now if you want, you could also, when the whole piece is finished, if you wanted to, use tissue paper or some other kind of material that's going to show through when you have your luminary. And now you can see, when you put this together, you're not going to bend this tab because we're going to use that to put together to the other side of the mouth, and so we have a nice smooth area between the two pieces. There's not going to be a line here. So let's start to assemble the sides. You're going to take piece 1, bend down all your tabs, and I like to start with the top piece, and you can put glue on all of these. Sometimes a dot will be enough. I even have quite a bit on some of these, but it should be fine. And you're just going to line these two pieces up together. And I like to make sure, this is where you really want to be careful that you get this nice and even at the top. It's just going to make it go together more smoothly. And you can see all your score lines will line up. So it's really easy to just pop together because their tabs are also between each score line. I'm just going to hold that together while it dries. And once that piece dries and is stuffed, you're ready to move on to the next. You're just going to line it up. You have to excuse me, I just got over a cold a little while ago, so I have to clear my throat every so often. And I'm just holding them together. And you'll take a little longer at home. I'm kind of going fast for the video. And the longer you hold them, the tighter it's going to be. And I'm just using my fingers on the inside and pushing the tabs down as I push them together in the front. Now we're getting to the face section. Now you have, all the tabs are basically the same, except for you've got one thin one right here. And that one you're going to fold in. You're going to just kind of bend this one without giving it a crease. Then you're going to take your number 4 piece and adhere it to the number 3. And now this is the piece you probably want to be most careful with because this is the very front of your luminary. The piece that everybody's going to see, or the seam. I get a little heavy with my glue again. But as you all are finding out, I kind of do that a lot. But it's okay. You can always fix this up as we go along. I'm sure I'm not the only one who gets a little too much glue on their piece as they're working. Okay, so we're going to start at the top again for the face. And just really look at your seams and match up. And you can see it's really, again, just kind of shaping itself. Just get your fingers inside. See, I'm getting my fingers, I don't know if you can see that in here. My fingertips are pushing against the tabs. I'm going to squeeze right by that skinny tab. Squeeze it together. And we're almost done with this first piece. Now if you want, you can put your overlays on ahead of time or afterwards. Either way is fine. Sometimes I like to put them on before. Usually just the face pieces before because they don't have any score lines. Now we're just going to close it up. We've got all our pieces together. And we're just going to close up the back. And you can see it's formed. And now we're just going to do the same thing, but we're just putting the two pieces together now. And by this time it really knows where it wants to go. And I'm just kind of guiding it. Hold this last tab together. Okay, now once you have that, I'm going to turn it over and fold these bottom ones down. And I'm going to turn it over this way. And you're going to take one of your hexagon pieces, and it's going to fit right into the bottom there. Now you could take a scrap piece of paper if you don't want to mess up your desk area at all. And I have this one here I'll put down. We're just going to, I like to use the colored side inside my looking up. I'm just going to put glue on the edges, like so. And you're going to, oh, I put it on the wrong side, but that's okay. We'll just have a white on the inside of our box. And you're just going to put that down in there and form. And you can see it's going to have a white on the inside of the box. Normally I would put the glue on the other side for this part so that I have a colored piece looking up. But it's really not that big a deal. And you're going to put it around this piece right here. And this is going to be the bottom of your box. And you're just going to this just covers all the extra tabs on the bottom. Okay? And then I'll turn it over again and just kind of push it down so that it stays nice and firm. And this is why we use the scrap piece of paper, or if you're using your desk, you might want to wipe it off so you don't have all that glue on the bottom of your desk. So now we have this part done. I'm going to move over our overlays, and they're basically the same pieces, and you're just going to take your fingers on these and give them a curl, going one way, inward, and down. So you just want to give them the same shape. You're going to do the same thing, just be a little more careful, kind of bend them with your fingers. Giving the same shape. Like I said, sometimes I'll put this on before I would glue it together. But really it can be done easy. Now if you're using patterned paper, these pieces really aren't even necessary because you won't see any of your score lines if you have a patterned paper with a lot of small patterns in it. Okay, so once you have these folded, you're going to see that they just line up around the eye, the nose, and the mouth. So what I do is I like to glue onto the back of this, around the nose, around the eye. Give a little dab here and there. And that should about do it. And I'm just going to line it up around my eye first, because I know if I have it correctly around the eye, the rest of it is just going to naturally fit in. And you're just going to hold it for a second. as it dries. And I think that gives it a really fun look, because then you have these outlines. And you have two different colors showing. If you see any score lines, you're just going to go around and put the rest of these on one by one. And you can see it's going to finish off. We're going to move on your skull to our top hat. And you can see here it's just some very simple pieces that we put together. And then we embellish it. So what it consists of is, first you're going to start out with these two side pieces. And these are the sides of the hat. And what I've gone ahead and done is put on most of these overlays, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You get 6 overlays, and these are optional if you want to give it just a little more dimension, or you want to have 2 different kinds of papers. That's what the overlays are for. So I'm just going to glue the back, and I'm going to center it onto one of the panels. And what you want to watch for is, if you have a pattern like this one, where I want the skulls to be facing with the chin down towards the bottom, there's an easy way to make sure you're using the top or the bottom. The top of the top hat has long tabs, like you see right here, and the bottom, where the brim will go, each section has 2 tabs. So once I've done that, I've also inked my edges, and I kind of like to do that because it covers the score lines. Like you can see here, you don't see any score lines once it's bent. Whereas if I bend this one, you might see some white where the machine cut. So I saved this to show you. I like using these Copic markers for this because I feel like I have a lot of control. And I'm just going to use a light colored marker that's similar to the pattern paper that I'm using, or even the solid that I'm using. And you can see all of a sudden those just disappear. And I do that to the top portion and the bottom portion as well. Okay. I find that to be just a little tip. So you're going to take these 2 pieces, and there's a tab at each end and then a side. So I'm just going to take one side and attach it to the tab. And hold it together. And you're going to line it up corner to corner, so that it's nice and even. And you have a little wiggle room with the glue. You need to reposition it. And just hold it together till it dries. And essentially you're forming one long strip. Once that piece is held together, you're going to go to the other tab on the other side and connect the 2 pieces together. Then once I have that as one piece, I'm going to fold over the top tabs like so, and then turn it over, because this is going to be where our brim goes. And what I'm going to take is our liner, and I'm going to put that on the inside. And I usually like to have the color facing up, so if someone looks inside the box, they're going to see some color. So I'm going to put my glue on this one on the back side. Let me move that out of the way so you can see how I'm gluing it. I'm just gluing around the outside edges, because that is where our tabs are on this piece. And if you want to use a scrap piece of paper underneath your project so that you don't get glue on your desk, now would be a good time to grab that. And you're just going to place that inside the sides of the hat. And then you're just going to use your fingers and press down on the tabs. And you're just gluing the tabs to the liner at this point. And as you can see, we've got a really nice clean inside of the hat. Now I'm going to turn it over, but when I do that, I'm going to bend my bottom tabs out. I guess you can bend them in as well. And now you can see this top of the box, or the hat. And we're going to put our top layer on to cover our tabs. And I'm just going to, on this one, I can put it on the sides and in the middle. And I'm just going to lay that right on top. And I've already gone ahead and put the overlay on the top of the top hat as well. So I'll push down here. I might flip it over and get my hands inside there to press it down nice and firmly so it all sandwiches together. The next step is our brim. So I'm going to fold these tabs inward. And you're going to take your brim piece and you're going to put your colored side facing down towards your table, because that is the brim you'll see when you turn the hat over. And then we have another piece that will go on top of that to cover the tabs. So you're just going to line this up towards the edge. Then I'm going to put glue on all of these tabs. And I'm going to glue them onto the brim. I'm just going to hold it with my fingers like this until they dry. Use my thumb. This part goes pretty fast. You could probably even put glue all the way around and make it in time. But this is the quick dry paper glue. This is what I'm using. I ran out of the one I was using earlier, which I had had for a while, and it had a purple label. So I'm thinking that Scotch actually changed the name to quick drying tacky glue because they didn't seem to have the quick dry adhesive anymore. But it seems to be the same glue, as it works exactly the same. But I find this quick dry glue to be fantastic for all the paper projects. It dries really fast and it holds really permanently. But it still gives you just enough time to tweak it if you need to. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put the glue on the rest of the tabs and glue these down. And you can push your brim towards the edge of the hat. It all fits together nice and snug. You can see it's going pretty quickly. The hat doesn't take much time. If you wanted to, you could be done right here. But I like to cover up these tabs, and I like to have color on the bottom as well. So that's why you have the other brim. And you can take that and just put glue around glue around the edge. Of both sections. Then you're just going to line that up on the bottom of your hat. And you're going to press down with your thumbs all the way around, like so. And you can see it's a perfect fit. I just like to squeeze them together so it really sandwiches the two pieces of paper together nicely. Gives it a little more stability having the two pieces. And I like that it has the colors and covers the tabs. The other thing that I like to do, and it's optional, is I use again my Copic marker, or you could use ink with an ink pad. And I take it and I'll go around the edge brim, just covering any white, just to make it one solid cohesive piece. And there you have your hat. Now if you want to embellish it, like I did, I just took a ribbon, wrapped it around the outside with a little hot glue, and for this I just took 3 buttons and found some cute little embellishments, glued them on with some hot glue as well, took a little leaf and put that on in a little black feather. And I think it gives it a really cute look when it's all finished. And then that sits on top of your skull. Here we have rose number 1, which I put on the top of the bride skull. If I'm creating the bride skull, what I like to do is create all my flowers first and then set them aside for later. But of course these flowers would be great for Mother's Day, weddings, Valentine's Day, for the top of packages, on gift bags. I could go on and on. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to make this for the bride skull. Now I've already gone ahead and rolled a couple of the petals. So I'm going to show you how that's done. It's actually really easy. I like to take just, any thin paintbrush that you have, and I use the end. And I'm just going to take a petal, line it up with the paintbrush, and I'm just going to roll it. Simply roll it around the paintbrush. And you can see it gave it a really nice curled edge. And that's how I did it for the one that you saw in the bride skull. I'm going to do it again here. I saved 2 for that. Show you. Just going to roll it around the paintbrush and you get a nice curl. Now for the piece that's 3 petals connected, it'll look like this when it's finished being rolled. And how you do that is basically the same way. I'm just going to start at 1 and roll it, and you can see it just kind of rolls all the way around and you've got the first one done. So it's kind of center. See where your center is so that you don't go too far in when you roll it. And then just kind of grab an edge and roll around the paintbrush. And turn it and roll around the paintbrush again. You can see it turns over. And then you've got some really nice petals. Now to put this, oh, I forgot one. Okay. Then you have your stamen, which is the center of your flower. And I can roll these the same way, just around together, like so, giving those a nice curled edge. Then I'm going to take this little hexagon, and I'm going to glue the single petals, 1 to each side. I'm going to use paper glue for this part. And just hold it for a second. Then you're going to overlap them a little bit. And it's easy to see where each one goes. You see how it overlaps it nicely, giving it a real, very realistic flower look. And I'm just going to go all the way around and do the same thing. Right along. And we've almost got the base done. And I'm just going to hold it for a second. And then you can see how each one is overlapping the other. And you've got a nice base on your flower. Now the next part I'm going to take, I find that hot glue works really great for paper flowers. I'm just going to take the hot glue gun and add a little dab of glue in the center. I'm going to take a rose, and I sometimes like to overlap them a little. And then I'm just going to hold that together for a second. Nice thing about hot glue is it dries really fast too. And I'm just going to do the same thing in the middle of this one. And I'm going to again overlap and have it go the other way. And you can see it's already starting to form a really nice rose. Now all we have to do is put the center in. So what I like to do here is I'll just add a little dab of glue. Now you can use your paper glue if you want to hold it together for a while, or you can use your hot glue. And you're just going to roll this one into itself, like so. And you're going to leave this one hanging for a second. Then, once that one's glued, you've got little tabs on the bottom. You're going to fold those over so you get a flat edge. And then I'm just going to glue these 2 pieces around the centerpiece. Again, you could use your paper glue for this, or you can use a little hot glue. Which dries a little faster. And then just hold those pieces together while they dry. Gives you a second to get all those little glue strings off. And once that's set, I'm going to set that down. I'm going to again put another dab of hot glue in the center of the flower. And I'm going to take my stamen. Now, if you have a lot of time on your hands, you could use paper glue as well. And then I'm just going to set this inside the center. And hold it for a second. And you've got your first rose. Rose number 2 is our lacier, larger rose that goes on both sides of our skull top. Now you can see we put 2 of the large roses on the sides. We have our rose number 1, and then 2 spiral roses go on the sides of that, and then we just tuck in a bunch of little leaves. So this could make a really pretty flower arrangement too if you weren't using it for Day of the Dead or Halloween. You could use it for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, anything like that. Now what you can see here, I've already cut all my pieces, and I've curled a few just so that we save time on the video, but it's really fast, easy rose to make. It looks very complicated and delicate and pretty, but it's actually very easy to put together. So we're going to use the same steps. I'm going to take my little hexagon piece, and I'm going to add glue to the sides, and take the petals and glue them one by one, overlapping. And we're going to be making it look just like this here. But probably before I would get started, which I was going to do, is I would roll all my pieces first. And that's why I left a few so I could show you how to roll them. So you have 6 single petals that are solid. You have 6 single petals that have a hole in the center. And then you have the 2 solid, one with the holes in the center, a solid stamen, and a cutout stamen. All you need is, some sort of paintbrush, anything that has a small end. I'm going to take one end of my petal and just roll it around the paintbrush. And then maybe open it just a little. And that gives us the nice curled petals. I'm going to do the same here. I left a couple so I could show you a couple of them. Then when I roll the cutout petals, I basically do the same thing. You can still roll them around. Use your fingers to tuck in the other side. So you get a nice rolled petal like this. I'll do it again. Take it and roll it around the paintbrush. And you can use your finger as a guide to hold that other side since these have the cutout. And I can use my thumb and bend that end around so that it's looking kind of like this when it's wrapped all the way around. And then when you unravel it, you can see it's got a really nice curl to it. Now to curl the 3 solid petals, I'm going to essentially do the same thing. I'm just going to start at one end of each petal and roll it around. And you're going to notice these flip over as you go. And I just roll it all the way around. Do the same for the other 2. And then the last one. Use your thumb and your forefinger to roll it all the way around. And you see it looks a lot different. It's starting to look like flower petals. And don't worry if they're different. Actually, it's nice if they're all rolled a little bit differently. As real flowers, no 2 petals are the same. So it gives your flower a nice realistic look. Even if you get a couple creases, that sort of thing. Sometimes really roughed up flowers look the best, with real all kinds of little crinkles in them. Because if you look at a real flower and you look at the petals, they're actually very crinkly and weathered looking. And you're going to do the same thing with the cutout. Again, just use your finger to guide it because there's no center. You can grab sort of the top here and curl it around so it looks something like that. And it's going to curl. Now, as you remember in rose 1, you have the 2, and you can even roll these 2 together by using your thumbs and forefingers and rolling it around so it looks something like this. Then with these, they also have score mark here and here. So when you fold those, you're going to get a nice flat surface for when you glue it to the center. I'm going to do the same thing with this piece here. And another thing is, when doing flowers, I really like to use double-sided paper so that the underneath of your petal has the same color as the top. And these also have the score marks. You can just give it a little bend, giving you a nice flat bottom. Okay, now we can continue gluing all our petals on. I'm just going to put my glue on 2 sections at a time and overlap each. You're going to do the same thing with the cutout pieces. You're going to just follow along the edges and glue them down all the way around. Overlapping. And you have a second base complete. Now we're ready to basically put it together. I am going to glue my little stamen together. And this time I'm going to show you how to do it with regular paper glue. Last time we did it with the hot glue, which you could do that as well. So I'm just going to put some glue on the edge of that petal on the outside and this one on the inside, just so I have a little extra. And I'm going to roll those pieces together, forming a stamen. Now you can do this as tight as you want. I found that just kind of rolling it around, you can even use, the same piece that you use to roll it to hold the shape if you want to squeeze it together nice and tightly. And you want to keep your shape from caving in on itself while you're pushing down. And that's already almost dry. Then I'm going to take these 2 petals, put a little glue on the inside of each one, and I'm just going to fold my score line so I get that nice flat surface. It's going to look something like this. And then I'm going to wrap these around that one. And like I said, if I have the piece that I curled it with, I can even pinch it a little tighter. If I have any glue coming out, now would be a good time to wipe it off. I kind of get a little glue happy. Some people are a little better at using less glue. But in the end, it all turns out looking really nice, especially on this type of thing where this is going to be down in the flower. You're never going to see that. Okay, now I can take that out, and we have our stamen piece. Now is when the hot glue comes into play. I'm going to take layer 1, put a glob of glue in the center, and I like twirl around to get less of those little hot glue strings. Then I'm going to take my cutout layer and overlap the petals and squeeze them together. It's a little hot, but you've got the paper protecting your fingers. So you can see the cutout is between the 2 petals. So it's starting to give it a very lacy effect. Okay, hold those till they're dry. Then I'm going to take these 2 and glue them together first. And I'm going to again overlap these 2 petals and hold them together so that you have the overlapping look. Nice thing about hot glue is it dries really fast. Now I'm going to take base 2 and add a glob of glue there. Take the 2 pieces I've already put together, and now I'm going to overlap between these 2 petals here. So that we're overlapping as we go along. And you can see the flower is now really taking shape. And just hold it with your fingers until it's set. Then I'm going to take my last little lacy triple petals, put a glob of glue in the center of the 2. And again, overlap this one and just push it down in there with your finger. Now if you don't like the heat, you can always grab your paintbrush that you used and hold it down this way. But the paper really does protect your fingers from the hot glue. You can always pull off these little strings that you find. Then the last piece is I'm going to take my little lacy petal and just kind of put a little glue on my petals, like so. Oh, I'm out of the shot there. And I put a little on the bottom of this one. Here I'm using my paper glue again. Now you could put this together before you got to this step. Now I'm going to hold them together so that I have half on one side, and then the other one is going to get glued on top of that. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so it kind of goes around. So you're just gluing it to the half side on each halfway point of the stamen. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other petal. And I'm going to overlap that one right there. Now you can see I got a little glue happy again. I tend to do that a lot. But my projects always wind up turning out okay. And if you have a finer tip on your glue, I cut this one a little short. If I were to cut it a little longer and I have a finer tip, you'll have less glue coming out. Now those two pieces are set. So you see, you've got half of that petal on each side. This is what the center piece is going to look like when it's finished. Let me move that out of the way so you can see it. Then I'm just going to take that with my hot glue again, put a nice glob in the center of the flower, take your stamen, and pop it right in the center. And when that's all dry, you won't see any of the white glue. It'll look just like the one you saw in the photographs and in the video. And I'll just hold that with my finger like this for a minute. You can use your both fingers, one finger. And there you have the larger lacier rose number 2. Here we have our spiral rose that will go on top of the bride skull. So it's a real simple piece to create, and I just use a misting bottle. It softens the paper and makes it a little easier to roll. And I put it on a real light mist, and I just lightly mist it with water. Then you're going to take it and you're going to grab the outside edge. And I like to use this little tool that I have, but you could get a quilling tool to do this. You could use a pin or even a little piece of wire, anything small, or if you prefer to use your fingers to get it started, you can do that as well. I just kind of like to use the little piece. I find it real simple. Once you get a little roll, you're just going to continue to roll it and use your fingers as a guide. I usually put one on the bottom, and then I use my thumb at the top, and I use my thumb and my index finger to roll it. So one is a guide while the other is rolling. And you can roll these really fast. They take probably about 30 seconds or so to roll. So it's really nice as you could sit, watch television, and roll a whole bunch of these and create a topiary tree or put a bunch of them on the top of a box. Anything you can think of where you want to have a bunch of flowers. So they're fun for weddings, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day. But for this, we're only going to need 2 roses to go on the top of our bride skull. Now once I've finished, you can see I rolled it nice and tight. I'm just going to let that set for a minute to dry. Now I've already rolled one and let it dry, and they dry in just a few minutes. So once it's dry, I'm going to take it and kind of gently unroll it from the center using my index and finger and thumb. I'm going to unroll it to the desired size that I'd like it to be. So it's just loosening it a little bit, and you can see how it becomes a really pretty spiral rose. And once you get it to the size that you want, use your thumb to hold the center, and you're going to put a dab of glue right in the center here, and I hold it. You can see how I'm holding it here. It's a good grip, and it keeps everything in place. I'm going to use hot glue for this, and I'm going to put that right in the center, a nice thick glob. And then I'm just going to take my rose and push it down onto the glob and hold it there for a second. You can put it on the table if you want, or hold it in your hands. If you feel it's a little hot, you can put it down on the table. And you're just going to hold it for a few seconds. And hot glue dries really fast. And there you have your first spiral rose. Like I'm going to make with you right now actually the top half of the bride skull. Right here, we're going to put all the flowers on and all of the other pieces. Now, as you can see, the bride skull bottom is actually exactly the same as the top hat skull. So, you're going to put this one together, the bottom half, exactly as you would for the bottom half of the top hat. So just use the video we did earlier to create the bottom half of the bride skull. But as you can see on the bride skull, I used the pattern paper, so I really didn't need to use the overlays because I used a real small, nice pattern, so you can't even see these score marks. So now I've gone ahead and laid out all the pieces for the top of the skull, which is the cap. And what I left is this one piece. I haven't folded any of the score lines yet. But again, I like to use the Copic marker here just to cover, and I think it gives, I like inked edges because I think it gives a little more dimension to the piece. Adds a little interest. And you can see I just take it and run it along the edge, and it'll give you a nice bleed into the project. Now on this one, you don't want to ink the bottom because that's going to be the bottom of your skull cap, and that way you'll have a nice clean line when it goes together. I almost fell off my chair. Okay, so I've already gone ahead and bent all the score marks here, so I'm going to bend this one just to show you how easy it is to get the nice curve that you're going to need. You just take your fingers, and now all of a sudden it's nice and curved. You're just going to glue one side with your tabs to the other side of each one of these. And I'm just going to put a little dot of glue on each one. And each tab section will just fit nicely together. And you want to start at the top and make sure that's even, because the closer you get this piece together, lined up, the easier it's going. Everything else is just going to flow real simple. And you can see it's just kind of forming itself. And I'm just going to squeeze it a little, like this, and go to the next. I'm going to move these out of the way. Along quickly. I just put a little dot on each one for video time's sake. And of course you can pause this at any time. It's kind of fun because we're kind of building it or crafting together with the video. And if you build one, I'd love if you took a picture and shared it on the Facebook page. I love to see all the projects that everyone makes. It's really a lot of fun for me to see what you guys create with the files. And you just want to hold your edges together. Make those sure those are nice and tight. And once you've got that piece done, now you can see you've got the little piece at the top. I'm just going to flip it over, take my liner piece, put a little glue around the edge, and put that right in the center, like so. And again, I always put my pattern up because I think it looks cute when you open the box. Then I'm going to flip it over. You can see we're done with the shape. And I'm going to take the top piece and again go around the sides, and this time in the center. And I'm going to put that on the very top of our box. Our skull cap. What I also did was I cut some ribbon to embellish it. And I love this crinkle ribbon, and I actually got this one from Love Bug Creations. They make a lot of really pretty crinkle ribbons. And I just took strips, cut them long like this. Then I would put a glue dot in the center and fold it in half, like so. And just hold it together with my fingers for a second. Then I'm going to glue these on now, one on each side. This kind of is the veil. I'm going to glue these on before I put my flowers on. For a second. I'm going to put one on each side. Hopefully I put enough glue on that one because I was running out of my glue stick. So I'm going to now put our flowers on. I'm going to start with rose 1. Put a dab of glue right in the center of the rose and put that one right on the top center. The other thing that we have here, if you want to use it, comes with the kit, is the fun little heart with wings. I'm just going to give that a little bend, and I inked the edges on this too. I'm just going to put a little glue, and I'm going to pop that right on the edge here. And the heart has a score line down the center so it matches your seam. And put a little glue on that. And I like to kind of put this down so it kind of V's down below our edge and goes into the forehead of the skull. Okay, so once I have that going, I'm going to put a rose on each side. I'm just going to take my glue gun and my spiral rose and put a glob of glue on the bottom of the spiral rose. And I'm going to snug that up and push it in to my rose number 1. So it gives a nice snug fit. It's starting to look really pretty. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And last, we're going to take our 2 large lacy rose number 2 and put that on each side. Put a glob of glue, and I'm just going to stick it right on the side. And I'm going to kind of bend my petals so I have a nice V facing the top rose. And I'm just going to hold that on for a second while one more little piece to add to the skull, which are our leaves. Now these, you get a bunch of these little leaves. I've already cut them out, and I've shaped them. And I left one so that I could show you how to shape them. I just take the end of a paintbrush, a dowel rod works good. I'm just going to hold. I'm going to put it in the center of the leaf, and I'm just going to kind of bend it around the paintbrush handle, like so. And all of a sudden, your leaf is now 3D. So these, I'm just going to take and I'm going to stick them in randomly between my skull. I'm going to put a dab of glue. You can bend some of them, keep some of them straight. And you're just going to tuck it in like so. And then one in here. And you can see I've already formed a really pretty front. And then you're just going to turn it around if you like and do the same thing to the back. And then your top of your skull is complete. Well, I hope you've enjoyed putting these projects together with me as much as I've enjoyed putting this video together and working with all of you. So I'll see you next time, and happy crafting!